she was desperate to know how I was doing. And she probably heard too, like, in my voice that I was in pain.
This is a shelter order from a Florida dependency court dated October 2016. And it's the reason 9-year-old Maya Kowalski spent the next 87 days without her mother, while her mother was standing right outside the hospital doors. Maya had a diagnosed neurological condition called complex regional pain syndrome. It causes pain so severe that standard treatment doesn't touch it. Her mother, a registered nurse named Beata, had found a doctor willing to try high-dose ketamine. It worked. Maya went into remission. In dependency court, once that label is attached, the parent isn't presumed innocent anymore. They have to prove they didn't do it against a hospital with its own legal department, its own expert witnesses, and unlimited time. Beata never got the chance to argue her way back to innocent. 3 months later, she was dead.
Tell me exactly what happened.
She hung herself in the garage.
Are you with her now?
Well, I'm in the garage.
How old is she?
42.
Is she awake? I just have to verify.
She's stiff. Oh my God.
This is the case of Maya Kowalski and the legal mechanism that made an institution's word heavier than a mother's. Before any of this, Beata Kowalski was the kind of parent who did her homework. As a nurse, she didn't take Maya's diagnosis on faith. She researched it, tracked every specialist, and kept records other parents wouldn't have thought to keep. When conventional pain management failed, she found ketamine infusion therapy, administered by a doctor who specialized in CRPS. It worked well enough that Maya, who had been in unbearable pain, went into remission. That remission didn't last.
And you were the physician who first diagnosed CRPS in Maya Kowalski?
Correct. Because her mother asked me, you said, Dr. Kirkpatrick, that she will lose her memory temporarily, short-term memory. How long does it last? That's what I mean. That's the kind of mother she is, okay?
Right.
She's asking questions all the time. And it's temporary. But it's important that we give enough ketamine. Because remember what I said. It's dose dependent. You have to get the dose up. So we want that temporary loss of memory.
Is that part of the resetting process?
Right, exactly. And we don't want to get the dose so high for safety reasons that the secretions could end up down in the lungs. So the way we prevent that is they're always conscious, so they do not lose their long-term memory.
In October 2016, Maya relapsed, and her parents brought her to Johns Hopkins All-Children's Hospital in Florida, expecting the same kind of continuity of care they'd found before. Instead, they walked into a hospital system that had never treated Maya, didn't know her history the way Beata did, and didn't trust the ketamine protocol Beata was asking them to continue. Beata pushed. She was a nurse, and she knew what worked for her daughter. But pushing back against hospital staff in a hospital that didn't know her read differently to the people in that building. Instead of treating it as a disagreement between a parent and a care team, the kind that happens in hospitals every day, the staff escalated it. They reported Beata to the state. That report triggered the involvement of a child abuse pediatrician, whose job is to flag suspected cases of abuse to the courts. Once that referral happened, the case left the realm of medicine entirely. It became a legal matter.
Were you acting as a medical staff member of All Children's Hospital, in other words, a pediatrician in consultation, or were you acting as the medical director of the child protection team?
There's a slight overlap because the privileges that I have at the hospital allow me to review their records and enter the building and examine children and things like that. So there was a slight element of my active medical staff credentialing that was in play, but primarily I was acting as the medical director of the child protection team.
Who was conducting the care of Maya Kowalski then?
At that point, she was in the pediatric intensive care unit at All Children's, and so the ICU physicians, the pain management team, I'm not sure if there were any other consultants that were involved at that point. Certainly all the nursing staff and the support staff and everything were the ones that were managing her care. In not just this case, but in child abuse cases, I don't really get involved with the management, day-to-day management of the children at all. My role is specifically to do this medical evaluation. And so I focus on that part and not really anything related to, whether the child gets a regular diet or what medications they're on or how often they're getting vital signs or any of that kind of thing.
A dependency court judge reviewed the accusation and ordered Maya to stay in the hospital's custody, cut off from her mother. Therefore, what should have been a medical disagreement about pain management became a custody case. But the court hadn't heard from Maya's outside doctors. The court hadn't reviewed years of treatment history. It had one hospital's account, filed under a label, medical child abuse, that made the decision almost automatic. If you're watching this because you've ever had a doctor dismiss what you know about your own child, this next part is exactly what you need to understand. For Beata, the 87 days that followed weren't a single dramatic confrontation. They were a slow-motion legal siege, hearings, filings, restricted visitation, and a growing certainty that the system she'd trusted to protect her daughter now saw her as the threat. The public assumption watching from the outside is usually that a hospital wouldn't escalate this far unless there was real evidence of harm. That's the assumption the system depends on. Give it a moment, because the trial told a very different story. Inside the hospital, while Maya was held, staff allegedly documented her not as a suffering child, but as a suspect. Court records entered during the 2023 civil trial include internal emails and hospital notes, the actual paper trail, showing how staff discussed Beata behind her back while she was fighting outside the building to get her daughter home. Cross-examination of hospital administrators during the trial dug into exactly how that internal culture formed, and how a child abuse pediatrician's initial flag turned into 87 days of institutional certainty. This wasn't really a medical dispute anymore. It had become a legal strategy. Once a hospital labels a parent's actions as medical child abuse and a court accepts a shelter order, the hospital is now acting under the court's authority, not just its own. That distinction sounds technical. It is anything but.
Technical.
Beata, meanwhile, was building her own record. She documented her calls with doctors and the dependency system, believing, reasonably, that a clear paper trail would eventually clear her name. Those recordings later became public. They capture a mother trying to work inside a system that had already decided who she was. But the system didn't move. Visitation stayed restricted, the case dragged, and Beata reached a devastating false belief that a judge would only release her daughter if she was no longer in the picture. In January 2017, Beata died by suicide.
There wasn't ever a specific time where I saw the doctors and nurses ask my mom to leave. It was only because this was the day that she had to go to work, and that was my last conversation with her. Whereas with my dad, I vividly remember people coming in and telling him that this was his last time to say goodbye to me. The last time I saw my mom, my dad wasn't there. I was laying in the bed. My mom was like picking up her work bag and just like little things she had brought to the hospital, and she said, "I love you and I'll see you tomorrow." And I never saw her again. Bought my mom this very specific necklace that says "I love you to the moon and back." It's just like she always said that to me. And then I found out later that she wore it every single day, and when she was found in the garage, she was still wearing it. And I have it on my neck right now.
Maya was released to her father days later. Therefore, the case that had been treated, internally, as a matter of protecting a child from her mother, ended the moment the mother was gone. That sequence of events became the emotional and legal center of everything that followed. A 2023 civil trial, the Take Care of Maya documentary, and years of legal argument over who was actually responsible. In 2023, the Kowalski family took the hospital to civil trial. 8 weeks of testimony, Maya on the stand, her father Jack on the stand, hospital nurses and administrators under cross-examination, laid out in public exactly how the system had operated. The jury didn't split the difference. They returned a verdict of $213 million.
The jury returned the following verdict in regard to punitive damages. Claim 1A, false imprisonment between October 7th and October 13th, 2016, Maya Kowalski. 1. What is the total amount of punitive damages, if any, which you find, by the greater weight of the evidence, should be assessed against Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital for the false imprisonment of Maya Kowalski occurring between October 7th and October 13th, 2016? $15 million. Did Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital have a specific intent to harm Maya Kowalski, and did the conduct of Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital in fact harm Maya Kowalski? Yes.
For a moment, that verdict looked like accountability. But in October 2025, a Florida appeals court overturned it entirely. Their reasoning wasn't about whether the hospital was right or wrong about Beata. It was about that shelter order from Section 1, the one from the Dependency Court. Because the hospital was acting under a court order when it held Maya, the appeals court ruled the hospital was largely shielded by what's called mandatory reporter immunity, which essentially just means the law protects people and institutions from being sued for reporting suspected abuse, even if the report turns out to be wrong.
I thought that the juror did an absolutely superb job, but I'm extremely disappointed that it went this far. It was horrible to put that juror through what he's been through. It's not good for our system for people to feel as though they give their time as a citizen for something like this, that they're going to end up just getting grilled and things exposed about the past, and not think that there was anything bad about the juror at all, but I'm just saying, if the defense had been given the ability in any way, they would have never stopped digging. They would have never stopped peeling the onion.
The system that took Maya from her mother, and the system that reviewed whether that decision was correct, turned out to be protecting the same interest, the institutions, not the families. Watch this case next to see the extreme level of brutality